Hi everyone, I'm Hoodie Angel Brandon, and welcome to the annual teacher convention. Today we are here with our dear, beloved Professor Byleth, who has returned from a trip to Khadein, where he has studied and grown and is now ready to put some new tricks to the test and aid our angel army once more. Yes, today we are going to be building up our dear professor and making him a sage that will sweep away all of our foes, as if he wasn't already strong enough beforehand. This will be our third version of Byleth that we will be able to employ, and I'm very excited to build him up once again. So to begin, of course, we must unlock the potential of our dear professor, and we are starting with this plus speed 4-star copy who has now been promoted to 5-star. Finally, Teach gets that well-deserved promotion for all the hard work he's been putting into our army. But now we must also upgrade these other 4-star copies and get them ready to merge up. As you can see, our dear professor studied long and hard and is already maxed out and ready to go, so we are just going to merge all of these copies in. All his alternate selves will grant him even greater knowledge from all of their lifetimes. He will have so much knowledge to draw upon and become super duper strong. I did keep these other Byleths as non-combat manuals because they already have some skills learned, so that'll just save us some SP. So now we will begin merging up our dear professor. And yes, I'm very excited. I was super excited to see this version of Byleth, of course, and we got very lucky and managed to get him all ready to go. I really didn't think we would get all those copies that fast. I thought we would have to wait for a rerun, but instead, Byleth was all too eager to learn some new skills. And now we have him ready to go. He's going to be fairly simple to build up too. He doesn't need a whole lot. He is working off a pretty good base of having a solid pref and a great special that gives him a good direction to lean towards. Although we did have to scrounge up some premium fodder because Byleth deserves nothing but the best, of course. And we are at +7. +8. +9. And finally, at last, +10. Level 1 +10, aka 11. And he feels the hand of the goddess guiding him towards something new. I'm pretty sure that's just my hand. But if he wants to believe that is the power of God Sothis, then that's fine, I suppose. So, as I mentioned, we are building off this plus speed Byleth. However, we are also going to ascend his attack. He has a super asset in attack as well, and it will perfectly complement his playstyle where he nukes things with his Sublime Heaven. And every little bit of attack will help him to take out his foes. And while we're at it, we will also go ahead and give him his Dragon Flowers. And we are also going to bless him. We're just going to go Astra Blessing just because it feels a little fitting for him. Other than that, no real reason to choose that over anything else. I guess I could Water Bless him to use him with his legendary version in Arena, but Astra Blessing is fine. I think it looks pretty. For an accessory, our dear professor already looks pretty fantastic. I really like this outfit. I know, kind of an unpopular opinion, but we also can give him an accessory to just make him stand out a little more. And there's not a ton that I really liked on him, but I did find a few that I kind of liked. There was the Tome Rooker Remnant, which I think looks kind of cool, but it's also kind of edgy. And then there was also the Exotic Plume EX, which also kind of fits his color scheme. I actually kind of really like this one. I'm not sure about it though. It is a little extravagant, and his outfit already has a lot of extra stuff. So I was thinking maybe something a little simpler. Another accessory that I like on him is the Gold Hawk Guard. I like to imagine it's just like a fancy quill that he keeps tucked behind his ear that he can pull out to take notes at a moment's notice. Because that's a very cute mental image, I think we're going to give him that one. There we go, something somewhat simple. Finally, for a support partner, I kind of don't have a ton of options, so I was thinking I would just pair him up with Nils, who I want to build in the future, and we'll just go with that, just because I kind of have everyone else paired up already. I do need to sit down and organize these a little better in the future, but for now he can work with Nils, I guess. He will take Nils under his wing and teach him lots of things, and then they can eat sweets together or something, I don't know. Next, we must take a look at the various reading materials our professor has brought back from his trip and pick out some exceptional skills to teach him and have him carry on to the battlefield. He's similar to Claude, who also had a pref skill and a pref weapon, and that makes him fairly easy to build around, but he does still want some premium things. As always, to start things off, we are going to grab some movement assists. To start, we're going to grab drawback, and he actually could get drawback from Muriel, who comes with attack speed ideal 3, which is a pretty good A slot option for him, especially if you want to inherit attack speed ideal 4 to him. However, we're just going to grab it off of a Sully. He doesn't really need any of those other skills, so we'll just go ahead and use this. And of course, reposition, we will just go ahead and grab that off of Ferdinand. And then for swap, we are actually going to use Yuri for that, because we're also just going to grab Time Pulse 1 through 3 from him at the same time. Very funny, I don't think many people use Yuri as swap fodder. Byleth is just built different. Next, we are going to grab some drive skills. We're going to grab drive speed and drive attack. He probably will be using time pulse most of the time, but those drive skills do have some synergy with his pref weapon, so I figured we'll pick them up just in case in some random map a teammate is missing a kill and he needs to take that to support them. Finally, to round out his kit, we are going to need some premium offerings from Khadein, Nino, and Corin, who I grabbed as my free pick for the Engage Cup, and Byleth and I went ahead and had some extra lessons for both of them to speed up their growth, and as such we have maxed out Corin and Nino's HM. Even though it's only been a few days since we got them, we are very tired. But they passed their classes and they are ready to now pass on their knowledge to our dear professor. And with these two, we are basically going to grab the entirety of Nino's kit here, because it's actually very good, and they will synergize very well with Byleth himself. So to start, we are going to go ahead and grab Corin's attack speed finish. And then from Nino, we will just go ahead and grab Times Pulse 4 and Speed Preempt 1 through 3. And there we go. He didn't really need a whole lot. Just those things were very expensive. Quality over quantity, I suppose. Our dear professor appreciates the finer things in life. So now, as always, we just need to begin learning these skills for our dear professor and have him study up and prepare for his exams. So at last, our budding sage has finished his studies and is ready to prepare his build to prove what he's learned on the battlefield. And for this build, we are going to be doing a mixed phase set that is basically copying Nino's homework, and we are going to take what she has submitted as her end of term paper and test it out on the field, and if it passes, we will give her a solid grade, and we will just test this build out. So To start, we are going to be keeping his Guide's Hourglass. There's no real reason to swap off of it. It has a lot of great effects. Slaying, terrain nullification, dodge, +5 to all stats, tempo, and +4 drive spectrum, which is just all very nutty for a demote weapon. And pretty much all of these help in some way, so there's really no reason to swap off of it. And then for his assist skill, he could take something like a rally because he does have that mixed phase potential. He could use his turn to support an ally and then tank on enemy phase. However, I really like movement assists on this build in particular, and normally I like drawback on my mages to help them move out of danger. But in this case, I actually think reposition is the better option for him, because with Guide's Hourglass having that null terrain effect, he can walk over a forest tile and reposition an ally to move them closer, which makes him able to play kind of like a pseudo flyer. Not quite as strong because he's still blocked by things like rivers and mountains. However, it does give him that extra bit of support utility. And also because he does have that enemy phase potential, it means that he doesn't have to worry as much about being in range of enemies. He will still have to worry about melee units, but ranged threats are actually good for him to try and tank, so he's not as worried about moving himself back to the back of the line and can stay closer to the front lines. For his special, we are going to take his Sublime Heaven. It scales off of his very high attack and also gets a bonus for troublesome dragon and beast foes, letting him nuke some of the troublesome threats like Edelgard. And most importantly, it pierces damage reduction, which is very powerful and lets him nuke things much more consistently. In the A slot, we are going to be taking attack speed finish, which gives him attack speed +7, +5 extra damage, and also restores 7 HP, which all synergizes very well with this. Of course, he wants the attack and speed, and then extra damage just helps him secure some kills. The condition for that being that he has his special ready or triggers it, which shouldn't be any issue because with Sublime Heaven having such a low cooldown, we'll be able to spam that very consistently. And then the 7 HP doesn't seem that important, but because of Guide's Hourglass's dodge effect, it means that he can potentially take a hit and survive, and then he can passively heal himself up over time thanks to the attack speed finish, which makes up for the lack of sustain elsewhere in his kit, like from something like Aether. So overall, this is just a perfect A slot for him. However, he does have other options. His native speed res finish is okay, but not quite as good because, again, he really wants that attack for nuking things, and especially because Sublime Heaven scales off of attack. But he could take that. He also could take something simple like Life and Death, attack speed solo, attack speed ideal, even something like a Unity skill or an Impact or Sparrow skill if he is playing a more player phase oriented set. Just a lot of options. Pretty much most things that boost attack speed are really good pickups. But again, his native speed res finish isn't a bad option either, but attack speed finish is the better, more premium choice. In his B slot, his native lull speed res is very good, especially I think on a more player phase oriented set, because it would let him just nuke more consistently by ignoring enemy buffs. However, we are going to be running speed preempt for that mixed phase potential. Gives him a little extra speed cushion and allows him to have a vantage effect against enemy ranged threats so that he can tank them and basically delete them with Sublime Heaven before they get the chance to actually do any damage to him. And again, the Guide's Hourglass dodge effect helps make this a bit more of a safe pick, because otherwise I would be worried about him missing a kill and then being one-shotted. However, with the dodge effect, he can kind of protect himself at least a little bit and not worry as much about missing a kill here and there. But with Sublime Heaven being spammed so much, I don't think it'll be that big of an issue, but it is something worth noting. And then finally in the C slot, he can take a drive skill to double up on Guide's Hourglass's support utility with the Spectrum Drive, and he could also take something like Attack Speed Menace to supply himself with buffs, which would also work especially well with like ideal skills. However, we are going to take Times Pulse 4 to further spam his special. Sublime Heaven has 2 cooldown count at base, and then the slaying effect of the Hourglass puts it at 1. And then Times Pulse just charges it all the way so that he will be able to just keep his Sublime Heaven up pretty much constantly. And thanks to it being the tier 4 version, that will apply even after he attacks. He doesn't have to wait till his turn like with the tier 3 version, which makes it very helpful for this enemy phase Vantage tanking. And with that speed preempt, any ranged threat that attacks into him will basically have to eat a fully charged Sublime Heaven before they can even actually attack him, which means he has a very strong chance of just completely not worrying about those ranged threats. This build can be slowed down a bit by Pulse Tie. However, the tempo effect in his Hourglass means that he should be able to manually charge his special again very quickly, so even that doesn't slow him down too much. And finally, one other C-slot option I did consider was DR Smoke, which would let him use the terrain nullification to walk onto a forest and trigger the smoke effect, and then allow allies to Pathfinder through him and continue attacking. Which I think could be a funny gimmick, but Times Pulse just perfectly synergizes with this particular build, so I think that is the better option in this case. Finally, for his seal, he could of course take Null Follow-Up, which would guarantee that he gets those doubles off, which he should be able to do very easily with his high speed. However, because he is going to be spamming his special so much, I don't think it's as necessary, and I don't think he'll have to rely on follow-ups as much to guarantee his kills. So I think it's best to leave this seal for someone else who needs it a little more. And instead, I think it's better to take an attack speed boosting A slot, and he can run a lot of them. I don't think Brazen Attack Speed is a good choice though, because the finish skill will potentially heal him up over the Brazen threshold, and it might be difficult to even reach that threshold in the first place since he will kill so many enemies before they even get a chance to damage him. Similarly, something like Kestrel Stance I don't think is a good pick because it is enemy phase only and he does have that mixed phase potential. Similarly, Swift Sparrow I would not pick for the same reason, although if he was running a pure player phase setup, I could definitely see that being a more viable option. I did consider Attack Speed Push because I thought that it would damage him and then he would heal himself up with the finish skill, but unfortunately it actually works in reverse, so sadly that choice doesn't really work out for him. But he can take something like Attack Speed Solo, which does boost both of his offensive stats. However, I actually like slightly more life and death on him. It doesn't have that solo condition, and the def res penalty is mitigated by his dodge effect, and the speed preempt means that he will probably take out most enemies before the def and res reduction even matter in the first place. So I think that is a perfect seal for him for this build in particular. So here we have his mixed phase setup. I think it looks really fun. A little different and differentiates him from his legendary version, who plays a more player phase oriented setup. And with this, Professor Byleth has attained complete mastery of the color triangle, perfect understanding, and as a bonus, he's now completely prepared for any stupid mercs trying to stand in his way. So yes, I'm very excited with this. We have 3 Byleths covering each of the colors of the weapon triangle, making him very versatile, and they all have at least slightly different playstyles, so I'm very excited to test this latest version out. So to test out our dear professor, I think it's only fitting that we bring his alternate universe selves with his regular and legendary version. His regular version is running a Gale Force setup, and his legendary version is running a player phase nuke set. And then for the last player, I think we should bring Robin, who is a fellow tactician and another knowledgeable boy to join our little field test here. And he is running a melee tank set with close reversal, so he will be able to wall off some threats if necessary. And we will just test out our professor and see how he does. Alright, we are here in Arena Assault to test our dear professor, and I have found a Valentine's Crom lead, which is actually what I was most looking for, because this guy has been bullying me for nearly a year now, and our dear professor is a fantastic counter for him, I am assuming. So I'm looking forward to testing him against him. We can also test him against his legendary version, which is also similarly a headache. So hopefully our professor can deal with them both. We also have a Brave Crom and an Exalted Crom to deal with. So quite a lot of headache here, but I think our professor has a good shot of managing it. So to start, how do we want to go about this? I think we want to move everyone else back a bit so that they aren't having to worry as much. Okay, perfect. So unfortunately there's all these defense tiles in the way, which is making it a little difficult to get a good even set here. But yeah, the defense tile might be troublesome for this Crom. So let's start by just taking out the Brave version. With a Sublime Heaven, strike him down. There we go. No issue. And our Times Pulse is charged once again. Alright. He is attacking, but we are both off the defense tile now, so it is a bit more of a fair fight, and he's going to just get nuked before he gets a chance to actually hit us. No issue. Okay, so now we're going to have Robin reposition our professor up so that he can take out the Exalted Crom. And now we are both on defense tiles, so I guess that is technically fair. And we are going to let this Valentine's Crom attack into us, and we will see how this goes. Behold, speed preempt Sublime Heaven. You'll never see it coming, even with that master tactician on your side. Our best laid plans could not be outmaneuvered. And with that, our professor completely sweeps the team and makes short work of those very troublesome, annoying units, which makes me very excited about him. So with that, our dear professor has showcased a sliver of the knowledge he has gained from his recent studies, and I have to say, I'm impressed and excited to see what more he can do in the future. Again, it is not the most unique build, utilizing the same skills that Khadein Nino uses in her kit, and it is a bit gimmicky, being able to be disrupted by things like hardy bearing effects. However, it was fun, it was interesting, and it does play different from my other Byleths, which makes me pretty excited. And I do like that it has that mixed phase option, being able to tank and take out ranged units, and then also having a very strong player phase as well. So overall, I'm very pleased with the investments that we've given our dear professor. Anyway, thank you as always so much for watching, and until next time, this is Hoodie Angel Brandon and Professor Byleth signing out.